going on, guys? Aqua here, back with another video here today to give you my review of this new Lil Tecca album, TEC. The long-awaited drop of New York's youngest stars has finally come out, and as you all know, I was waiting for this album. I was very much looking forward to this album. Of course, gave a listen to all of the leading singles for them, and for the most part, it hit. And there was a lot of momentum building for this project. Of course, Needed Me was a solid song, but especially when 500 Pounds dropped, people got reminded of how good Tecca was. But over that Rage production, people really began to see him in a new light, and really began to appreciate the artistic, qualities that he had. And you could kind of feel it with social media posts and just the energy around Tecca in general, that this album was really high when it came to its anticipations. This definite need to really deliver. And I'm happy to say that for the most part, he did. Hey, please subscribe. We are like a little over 10 subscribers away from 200 subs. Please sub. We are almost there, y'all. We can do it. We got 2 more months to do it. Come on, just subscribe, help a brother out. Here we go. He did exactly what he said he was gonna do, and so yeah. For this review, I don't plan on doing this a lot, but I think for this review, I think it's just more effective for me to talk about this in the context, give a little some thoughts here and there, but for the most part, give it in the context of a tier list of songs I like, songs that was okay, songs I didn't like. Rather than the normal good grade. I will still give an overall rating at the end of the day, but I think it just makes more sense if I do it that way. So overall, like I said, I really like this record. I feel like Tecca has some of his best songs on here. The vocals, the choruses, the beats, everything was firing on all cylinders, and I think that a lot of some of the problems that Tecca has had in his music past, such as long albums and repeat songs on here, was a lot less of an issue. It was definitely Tecca's shortest album at only 16 songs, and I think that served him well because he could really flesh out song ideas, and that was really, really refreshing to see. That being said, I think, and I was talking about this phenomenon with a friend of mine, that I think there's a certain ilk of rappers, especially in the new generation, where their rapping isn't the focal points. Think Cardi, think Travis, think Uzi, stuff like that. And I think it's a bit of it's interesting because what we as hip hop fans have decided to do with rappers like that is decide, and Nav is another good example as well, is decide that if lyrically not as much will be delivered, then we're going to put more emphasis on the music that you make and the creativity that you display. One of the things I noticed about this album when I was listening to it, especially over and over, and when trying to make this tier list, I think that the mark of this album being as great as it is that normally I have things such as here are the best songs, here are the mediocre songs, and here are the bad songs. But I think for this one, it was interesting because, at least for me, it never felt like there was any real misses on this project. Certain projects were obviously better than others, but I think that for the most part, it really just came down to the fact that I think that Tecca aesthetically is just better at certain kinds of songs. But it's not even like the songs that he's not as strong at are really misses. It's just, there's just a certain aesthetic of song that he truly excels at, and then one that he's just standard at. And so what was interesting for me was that there wasn't really any frank misses on this album. Even some of the most mediocre songs for me really just came down to avenues in which I don't enjoy Tecca as much at this point in my life. But there weren't really any misses to be found on this record, which was really, really interesting to see. With that being said, let's start from the middle and let's go out. So as you can see, first we just have the songs that were great and catchy. This is Heaven on Earth, Gist, 500 Pounds, You Don't Know, and Real Discussion. All of these songs don't exactly exhibit traits of anything monumental or groundbreaking, but they do really work well as bops and as bangers. The beats go pretty hard, and there's just not really a dull moment with these songs. They also fully commit to the sound and see Tecca really experimenting vocally with great choruses and great everything. That being said, they don't truly transcend that level where they reach, a level where you can consider like amazing music. I think they do sort of sit in this level where it's like these are songs that are good, that are catchy. I think more from a production standpoint, these songs weren't monumental to me. To me, they often had just very simple loops, and the idea of production progression wasn't really existent with these songs. That's how I feel about those. The next section I'm going to talk about, and this is going to be the lower section. I'll end on a high note. This, I think, was the song that to me felt a bit hollow. And while I wouldn't consider any of these frank misses, they definitely saw Tecca, I think, playing it a bit extra safe and didn't really add much to his overall discography or nor to the album. Here you have Either Way, Wasn't Wanted Bad, TEC, Salty, and Yes, Yves. I don't know how to say that. And I think so. Wanted Bad and Either Way were definitely just sort of reskins of Act Up, but just not as good. And I think TEC, Salty, and Yes were cool songs within themselves, but nothing that TEC has ever not done before. And overall, I think the production was also pretty hollow, and it made the songs overall get fairly boring. With that being said, again, none of these are bad songs, and I would still consider them to be solidly catchy and listenable. So yeah, even at his worst, he's still pretty solid. Now let's get to the peak. These are the songs where I felt like Tecca is performing at a top level. He is making music that is compelling and dynamic and genuinely like groundbreaking for at least, in the context of New York. And in this one, we have Used to This, Dead or Alive, Monday, Sunday, and Tripping on You. Used to This just has this amazing Used to This and Monday and Sunday have this amazing celebratory beat that they both have. And they just represent the grind and Tecca putting in the effort that he's putting in, as well as the rewards that he's accrued from that success. The choruses are super anthemic, super fire, and he really gets into it in the verses. Of course, he's not like, doing anything crazy from a pen perspective, but vocally what he's able to accomplish is just really impressive. But the main thing with these two songs was seeing him rapping over such celebratory beats. He's able to build such intense emotion from you, and it's so like, it's almost like, magical, cinematic, if you will, a little bit. And then Tripping on You, I think, is just another, again, similar to Somebody, similar to Out of Love. It's one of those more slower love ballad tracks. And while Tecca himself is not the best, writer when it comes to like love songs, the somber emotion that he's able to convey through this song was really impressive. And I really enjoyed his melodies throughout this song. And I felt like they were really clean and worked just really, really well. So yeah, Tripping on You is definitely fire. And Dead or Alive, I'm debating between Used to This and Dead or Alive. I think Dead or Alive might be the best song for now. Just this beat with so much progression and variation, as well as you see Tecca experimenting with so many different flows and styles. It was absolutely incredible, and it was insane to see him attack this style of production with so much, consistency and energy. Right? We sort of view Tecca as this really like chill, laid back guy, but he really gave this track his all from an energy and effort perspective, and you can really see that. And it made for a super enjoyable track. The chorus hit. It was super, super hard. And the way that the beat progresses and changes throughout the song is just so engaging and encapsulating. It's genuinely awesome. Overall, like I said, this is peak music, and if there was an EP of just these songs, this would absolutely get an amazing rating from me. Not that I want just an EP of these songs, but I'm just saying, like, if every song was in this vein, that might be, an amazing for me. But yeah, this was overall a really good collection of songs, and some of the best we've seen from Tecca. overall, I thought this was a great album. I really enjoyed everything that Tecca had to offer, and I'm glad to see that he is adding to his sound rather than hopping on trends. That's really dope to see. Is there anything else? I will say that one thing I did do a lot as a point of comparison was I compared this a lot to Utopia, because those are both, sort of more music style albums with rapping that's not as high caliber from the known artists. So to be transparent with you all, I'm still getting used to this concept of reviewing, and there's a level of accountability I have to hold myself to when it comes to keeping consistent from album to album. And, even though I'm not ranking albums more than once a year, a lot of people will get caught up in like, oh, he thinks this album is better than this album. So it's very important for me to be very consistent. And so therefore, and I think even Fantano talks about this, like thinking about, how does this, stack up to other albums I've listened to is one of the ways that I think most reviewers do it. But yeah, that is part of the reason I also decided to do this comparison, was just to hold myself accountable and see the differences. And I think that I gave that, I didn't review it, but I would give that an amazing rating. And so one thing I would say, compared to Utopia, that stops this from truly being an amazing album for me is, number one, there's like this thing that Tecca always uses in his production, and it's like this 808 hit. It's like this very strong and heavy 808 hit, and it's in almost like every song, and it feels like the same pattern, the same pretty much everything. And I think it gets pretty repetitive. And I understand that there's other artists with repetitive production, but I think that for him, the 808 takes up such a big. But I think that for him, the 808 takes up such a big part of the production itself that it's kind of hard not to notice it, and definitely contributed to a bit of monotony throughout the album. And so that was one thing I will say was a bit of an issue for me. The other flaw I think with this project is the features. Ken Carson and Ken Carson and Kodak Black really didn't have standout versions, and I don't even think were really necessary. I genuinely think this album would have been better off featureless. I'm not even gonna hold you. Obviously, songs like Dead or Alive, it would have been cool to see a feature maybe, but like I think Tecca does enough on every single song to really, sort of justify being just himself. And the only two features he does bring are kind of mediocre. You have Kodak Black, who I'm not really much of a fan of in this day and age, with his higher pitched voice and the questionable bars that he's dropping. I don't think his vocals went with the song whatsoever. And then you had Ken Carson, who sounded similar to Tecca, and I will say it sounded a lot better than I remember Ken Carson sounding. That being said, one of the things that to me is a bad sign is when like you sound, it's like to me, Ken Carson sounded like Tecca, but if the audio quality got worse. Like if you listen to it, they sound kind of similar, except I think Ken Carson is just a bit more verbally gravelly and like doesn't enunciate. And I understand that's kind of just his sound, but he doesn't even bring like high level vocal inflections like a Cardi to justify his sort of scratchy delivery. And so it kind of just comes off as like an imitation of Tecca, but just not as well enunciated with poor audio quality. This wasn't a major flaw. There was really only two features, and I think it's really impressive that Tecca carried this album pretty much by himself, and all the best moments are Tecca by himself. But yeah, overall, he really cooked. Let me know what y'all thought of this album in the comment section below. I really enjoyed this, and I'm definitely getting a lot of spins from this. And yeah, with that being said, peace, y'all.